Welcome to TechNation.
Funny, but sometimes mentally unstable.
Hi, just to remind you, if you haven't watched the first two parts of the series, I would highly suggest that you go and watch them, because we're going to discuss some things which we're going to refer to from past episodes. Today I have Niels with me again. I would like to remind you that Niels is board member of the Multi-Rotor Malta Association, which has been instrumental in getting this 4-part series up and running. Thank you to the MRMA for all your help. Niels, hot today again.
Yes, it's summer. Hi,
Yes.
James.
Hi, Niels, how are you doing? Today we're going to get into the guts of it. We're going to talk about the powertrain.
Yes, it's getting interesting.
Yes. So, Niels, when we talk powertrain in a quad, in a racing quad, what are we referring to? Which parts are we referring to?
First, the battery,
The batteries?
the motors,
Mm-hmm.
and the ESCs.
Let's start from the batteries, Niels.
The batteries we use in the FPV racing community, we have different types. Those are 3 cells, 4 cells. We're going 5 cells and 6 cells even.
Okay, so when we talk about 5 cells and 6 cells, what is the difference? Why are there different numbers, basically?
The difference, James, is the amount of power we can carry.
So, Niels, the first thing I noticed about these batteries is the incredible amount of discharge rate that they have. So, if you don't know what is a discharge rate, basically each battery has a C rating. That is what we call the discharge rate. The bigger the discharge rate,
The more power you get.
exactly. And while normal batteries have discharge rates of 2C, 5C or 6C, this battery is a 45C. Why do you need such a big discharge rate?
We need a lot of power. We discharge those batteries within 2-3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it has about the same amount of power that a battery in your phone has. So instead of 24 hours, we discharge them in 2 minutes. Think of it as a river. So instead of having a small river, we have like a very big river of current.
Okay. If you consider that with consumer electronics, your mobile phone, when you charge it, is using a maximum of 2 amperes. So basically, you can imagine the difference in power that it makes. When you are faced with a choice of batteries, always go for the highest. What considerations do you have to make?
It depends on the level that you are as a pilot.
Okay, so let's say I'm a beginner.
So you're a beginner, you would choose probably a 3 cell.
Mm-hmm.
And you would need a lot of them to enjoy the quadcopters or the FPV racing. Buying 1 or 2, it's finished very fast, 2 minutes. And it's better to have like at least 5 or maybe 10. So aim for a cheap one. It's good enough to start with.
Okay, so this is where it's a good idea not to spend a lot of money on one single item. The more the better. So instead of buying one, if you're a beginner, instead of buying one which costs 50 euros, it's better to spend 10 euros and buy 5 of them.
Exactly.
So you can enjoy and get your practice up and your skill level up.
From all the components that we have in the quadcopter, the battery is the weak link.
Okay.
We are directly working with manufacturer to improve the capacity and the power available, and also the length, the size, and the lifespan of the battery.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm noticing one thing. For example, this battery and this drone.
No problem. No problem. Look, we go under, we strap it. The drone can carry up to 5 kilograms. This is 150 grams. No problem. We can carry 10 like this if you want.
Okay, so you basically strap the battery under the frame.
Yes.
So when you are considering the best battery that you can buy, just go for the biggest that you can.
Not really. So we have in the FPV racing right now 1,300 milliamps is the norm. It's about this size, 150 grams. That's what we use right now. And then the highest discharge rate the better normally.
So we basically have to consider the C rating.
The C
The
rating
higher
is
the C
important.
rating, the better.
Yes,
The more power that you can give to your drone at any one instant.
exactly.
Can you buy the battery on its own without considering the other things that you're going to run, the motors?
I would advise against it.
Okay.
We usually do those simulations to know exactly or more or less the power that we will require, and then we will buy our batteries.
You're talking about simulation, so I am assuming that there's software available for this.
Yes, we have a few over there. You input the type of motor, the ESCs, the type of propellers, and then it will give you a general ballpark figure about how much you would need to power all this.
Okay, so it's not a matter of just go on the safe side and buy a 150C battery, for example.
No, sometimes your equipment won't handle it.
Okay. So it's important to run simulations with your ESCs, your models of the motors, along
And the propellers
and
that
the
you're
propellers.
using.
So those are the secret ingredients for choosing the battery. Which is the next item you would look at when you're choosing your items to build your own drone?
So it's a combo. Of course, the type of propellers with the motors and with the ESCs.
So you have to consider that as a package.
You need to.
Okay. Why?
Because a motor with a propeller will require more or less power. The electronic speed controller here is rated for 20 amps, this one.
Okay.
So the amount of power that is consumed by the combo propellers and motors, this at peaks goes to 30 amps, this one.
Okay.
So it's already a bit too much for the ESC. So this
Okay.
you need to consider.
If, for example, you decide that you want to run a certain type of motor with a certain type of propeller and you're exceeding the rating of your ESC.
So you have a backup. The ESCs here, they have a burst ability for about 10 seconds. So I know that this motor here with this type of propeller here, it can go up to 30 amps consumption. This one at peaks, the electronic speed controller here is like 20 amps, but it can burst to 30 amps for a period of 10 seconds. So knowing this, it's okay.
It's very important to consider your motor with the propeller. Why?
Because you have different type of propellers. You have here, this is what you call a 2 blades. You have here a 3 blades. We have 4 blades. We have 6 blades. Depending on the amount of wings constituting the propeller, you have more thrust. So, and more power is required from the propeller to spin. And so more power from the powertrain is required.
If I am going to run a 3-blade propeller, it's going to require more duty from my motor than a twin propeller.
Yes,
right?
From all your electronics.
From all my electronics, not just from the motor. Obviously, because the motor, then if it requires more power than the ESC has to provide it, so forth and so on.
Exactly.
Why do I need to consider the 3-blade propeller with the motor? Can't I just assume that I'm going to use a 3-blade propeller, then I buy whichever motor I want?
You can have different type of blades size-wise and shape-wise.
Okay.
That will be, the shape is usually you have like more or less effective propellers, more or less torque, more or less top end speed.
So, since we're talking about propellers, what considerations should I make before I actually decide on the propellers?
You have also to consider the cost. You will break a lot of props. I do too. Don't go cheap, go for good propellers.
When we say good propellers, Niels, what are we referring to as good? Because good is a relative term. What is good for you?
You have different brands on the market. Any is good, but then good propeller is good propeller for you and the powertrain that you're using. You have different type of materials. So this is plastic with some kind of resin inside. This is also a bit the same, and you'll see they bend differently. Try this one.
Yes, this is more stiffer. It's much stiffer.
Yes.
So we're talking price-wise. How expensive are propellers?
€1 per prop. Tops.
€1 per prop maximum. However, that's not cheap. When you consider you have 4 on each quad, and if you're like me, you go through countless propellers every time you fly a drone. That's not because of the drones, it's because of the pilot at this time.
You have to consider the fact that it's a cheap hobby in the long run.
Okay.
So if I have to pay €4 per flight or per session, for me it's okay.
All right. Yes, what we've seen is that there's more of a startup cost than a running cost to the sport, because you obviously need your equipment to start with. ESCs.
They cost minimum 10-15 euros.
So, as we said, the ESC, the consideration is the power that the motors are going to ask of your electronics, the amp rating, the burst rating,
Yes.
and obviously configure everything to run in your simulation with all your setup
Exactly.
to determine what the consumption will be. So, let's say ranges. So, 15 euros is good to go. Maximum range,
30 euros
30 euros per ESC.
maximum.
So again, it's not the bulk of the cost of your drone.
No, but each and every component is around this ballpark, like 20 euros, let's say. You multiply by 4, you
Yes.
multiply by 4.
You have to obviously multiply everything by 4. So the most important component, Nils, of the setup, the motors.
Yes, we use outrunners,
Okay.
we use brushless motors.
Mhm.
You have different techniques of winding the inner core here. What we saw happening during the last 2 years is going faster and faster in the spinning
Okay,
speed.
so higher RPMs.
Higher RPMs, more efficiency, and actually a better correlation between the motor and the ESC.
Okay.
So now we know which combos of ESCs, motors and
Right.
top are the more efficient.
So if you're a beginner, most of the hobby sites, we can mention one of the biggest one, which is hobbyking.com, or obviously you have your always eBay. They offer combos, ready-made.
yes.
Propellers, motors, and ESC combos that you can safely run on your setups. If you are an intermediate user, you would obviously want to pick and choose your setup for what you're gonna need. Obviously, then if you're an advanced user, if you're gonna compete with your setup, then you don't need to watch this video because you know your stuff already. Motors. What considerations do we have to make? I know that motors, it's not like the other stuff. The prices range enormously.
It's a tough question. You can get very technical or very basic. With the democratization of the FPV racing, the prices are going down tremendously. Last year it was like maybe 20-30 euros a motor, a good motor. Now it's more in the 10 to 20 euros. Anything from that range of prices is good. It's a tough choice, but considering this frame, this is like one of the lightest frame and smallest frame possible right now on the market. Any kind of good motors is alright because the power to weight ratio is so big that you will be able to compete no problem.
For beginners, the best option until you get used to what you're saying, until you make part of a community where you actually learn more about the technical aspects of the sport, go for a combo. A good combo nowadays will only cost you around 40 euros per arm. So we're saying about 120 euros in total, and that's a very safe bet to start with. Then when you get into the sport and you make part of the community, when you're actually knowing the language, the secret language of FPV drone racing pilots, then you'll get the know-how on choosing your own separate components.
I
Right,
totally
sir?
agree with what James is saying, yes.
If he doesn't, I just cut him off. Thank you, Nice, for being with us again. Thanks, guys, for being with us again for this third episode in the 4-part series about FPV drone racing. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We remind you to join us next time for where we talk about transmitters and radio equipment. Thank you, Nice. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Hot
How
again?
are you? Oh yeah, super hot. It's summer.
Yes, very summer. It's very summer.
Very summer. You're very gay.
Oh, very summer.